I don't want to die, so I better bear down and start setting up camp ASAP here because it's getting ugly fast.
I'm in the absolute middle of the Ungava Peninsula on the Povungnituk River in a blizzard.
There's no way that Bear Grylls or Les Stroud or anybody that you see on these survival TV shows are even remotely in as much danger as I am right now.
I've checked out my lunches and I've checked out how much food Buck has left, and it's not going to be enough to finish the trip.
Don't let satellite communication equipment be a false sense of security, because the reality is that you're just using it to tell people where they can find your body.
If I don't get my shelter up tonight, nobody's going to be able to make it here in time to save my before I freeze to death. So what's my communications equipment really good for in this kind of weather?
I don't have a camera crew with snowmobiles and helicopters on standby. I am truly out there self-filming this, just me and my dog in the wilderness. This right here, what you see in this documentary, is an extremely real experience that is beyond anything you're going to see on television nowadays, and I guarantee that. From the remote eastern coast of Nunavut, Quebec, I, Jim Baird, accompanied by my loyal companion Buck, a husky Malamute mix, embarked on a 36-day self-propelled winter crossing of the vast and wild Ungava Peninsula. Our journey unfolded 760 miles above the tree line in the sparsely populated Arctic wilderness of Nunavut. Navigating the treacherous terrain and enduring relentless blizzards, we ventured through the expansive and rugged landscape, forging a deep bond amidst the solitude and challenges. My journey began in the small Inuit hamlet of Kangiksuyuak, Quebec.
So here we are in Kangiksuyuak. I'm going to Povungnituk Crater, and I'm going to have about a month-long, 370-kilometer journey to get to Hudson's Bay. Should be quite the adventure. I'm going to be filming the whole thing, and yeah, bring you along for the trip.
I brought Buck with me here. We're each going to have a sled, and we have about 370 kilometers to cover before we get to Iqaluit.
In Kangiksuyuak, I also watched a dog team and explored a large iceberg that was frozen into the ocean right in front of town. This is a place where Inuit people for many hundreds of years have ventured under the sea ice of the Hudson Strait to look for mussels. In the winter, the tides here are so vast that they rival those of the Bay of Fundy's. And I was able to join a local elder, Lukasi, to venture under the ice and gather mussels.
So I'm just here with some students and Lukasi and I believe his wife. And we're chiseling to go under the ice to look for mussels. I think Lukasi is the expert in this area, so I think we're in good hands because I hear, it can be dangerous. But yeah, the hole looks really deep. I'm pretty excited.
In the high tide, the crab it became like this, and the low tide it became like this. We try to find a space in there, and that's why we have to make a hole. This part, or that part, or that part, where we could find.
Chiseling a hole, we ventured into what seemed like an ice cave as I listened to the echoing words in Inuktitut and the dripping sounds of seawater into the tidal pools on the ocean floor.
It doesn't have any little strain, but the mussel is it's not alive.
We came up with many, many mussels, more than we had hoped for. What an amazing experience.
Well, that concludes my mussel hunting experience. There's not too many places in the world where people do this. I think this community and a couple others on the Hudson Strait are the only place in the world where people go under the sea ice to pick mussels. So just amazing. And this is only the beginning of my trip. I just want to show you all the gear I have here. A lot of camera equipment, solar charging stuff. That's my clothes bag over there. My Baffin Endurance, good till minus 100. And here's all my food is in those bins. I have these Eureka packs here to carry personal items and kind of hardware stuff, navigation equipment. And I got all my mussels. I had a couple things to do, but now I'm cooking them up for dinner. and just steaming them with a little tomato sauce, and they're starting to smell really good, and actually they're absolutely delicious eating them raw too. So let's go. I'm Jim Baird, and right now is the beginning of my month-long 370-kilometer expedition to cross Nunavik on foot. I'm going to pick up the Povungnituk River, follow it to Lake Alamand, and when I hit that, I'm basically going to go east to the Chukot River, cross a couple rivers on the way, and then straight down to Hudson's Bay, where I'll almost be in Inuit by that time. Who knows what I can run into? I mean, a lot of dangers out there. There's a chance I can see polar bears, but the weather is going to be my biggest concern.
After a few days there, my dog Buck and I began our expedition. We started by walking the distance of Wakeham Bay, some 22 kilometers.
Town is officially out of sight, has been for a while.
All right, well, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. Well, that was pretty amazing. I just met a guy, I think his name was Anakudluk, and they offered for me to stay in their shack, which is about another 7 kilometers from here. So if I'm lucky, I'll make it there, and it means I can go a little later because I don't have to set up my camp. They were kind of looking at me weird, like, what is this guy doing? So when I stop, I throw on my big jacket, but I've worked up a lot of sweat. I'm really damp underneath. Need a change of clothes. And it's almost dark, and it would appear that cabin is not quite as close as what the guy thought. He thought I'd be able to make it there before dark. I had to take a break because I was exhausted and choked down some power bar. But I don't really want to travel at night. I'm probably gonna have to. I think it's like another 4K away, believe it or not. Here is the view from my window. Morning of day 2. Yesterday, I made it about 22 or 23 kilometers from town. Now today it's about 10 kilometers only to the next cabin, which is one that is owned by the park, which I'm allowed to use. But the thing is that that's 10 kilometers of consistent uphill. It looks like it goes like this, so up and then flat a bit, up and then flat a bit. And, you know, although it's a lot easier to pull toboggans or to pull pulks on this hard packed snow, it is not easy to pull them uphill. I was told that the wind gets really strong here because it's just channeled through this valley. And I noticed that they have what seems to be ropes and anchors holding down the roof.
But the Canada flag is still holding strong despite the intense wind.
Buck and I began the long climb. We had 2,000 feet to ascend before reaching the top of the plateau where Povungnituk crater is.
Well, we're on the first large uphill, and at this point we're gonna leave the ocean behind us. The uphill, at least this part, isn't too steep, but it's just kind of a long slog. Luckily there's a couple flat parts that you can actually rest. We're finished the first big uphill jaunt, but the next one looks like it's a lot tougher. Pretty flat here though, and pretty hard pack, so let's hope the next one's not too bad. It would appear that I have a ridiculous Another hill to go up here, man.
Beautiful country, but it's scary how little shelter there is here. Buck takes every opportunity to have a little nappy poo.
It was on the night of night 2 that I experienced my first blizzard. All my cameras froze and I had little opportunity to film anything, as all I could just barely do was figure out how to hack snow blocks out to make a snow block wall so that I could get my tent up. It was a pretty scary situation, and in the end I figured, well, it probably can't get much worse than this. Some of the local guys I'd spoken to in town told me that the last person who tried to attempt doing this made it to day 2 and let off his emergency beacon because he got lost. I sort of laughed at the time when I heard that. Day 2, and there I was at the end of day 2 in serious trouble already.
Frostbitten all my fingertips last night setting up, and probably minus 40 temperatures and howling wind.
The weather got really nasty. I didn't get, started really blowing hard, and I didn't get into my tent until about midnight, if you can believe that. And I just set up my tent right behind it. I just started taking my tent down. And that's the way I'm going for a many number of days.
On this stretch of the trip, we were heading up in elevation significantly and going for a place called Povungnituk Crater.
Anyways, a beautiful evening and I'm through the big hills. Yeah! Thank you, God. I have about 450 or 480 kilometers in a straight line to Quebec, which is horrifically daunting. That's in 25 days, 17K a day average.
It started getting colder and colder as we got further into the interior and higher in elevation. In fact, it's often 10 or 20 degrees colder up on the plateau near the crater than it is on the ocean like Hangiksuya.
Goodbye. And for your wonderful work, you will be rewarded.
This is one of the most starkly beautiful places I've ever been. Luckily, the winds are down, thank God, but burning, stinging, bitter cold as soon as those winds pick up. Looks like I have some good trail, good hard packed snow in front of me, so I'm just gonna keep pushing on. I'm just packing up my stuff inside my tent here. I haven't been able to set my tent up as high as it will go because of the high winds here, so I've just been setting it up a little bit lower, so there would be more space in here if I had it set up at its largest. This is where I just dig out a little spot to do some cooking and boiling of water. I have this sleeping bag here. It's good till minus 40 by Western Mountaineering, and inside the sleeping bag I keep my wet clothes right here. These are the clothes I wear during the day. The other thing I also have in here is a sleeping bag vapor barrier, and this little thing here will add another 10 degrees heat to your sleeping bag. So my sleeping bag's down bag's good till minus 40, and this will make it good till minus 50. I hadn't been using it, I used it last night, and I can tell it really makes a big difference. So if I make it 15K, I can stay in the cabin tonight, but it's already pretty late. So I'll be arriving there at dark probably, but if I really push, I can probably break camp and make it to the cabin, because it's really nice to have a warm place, obviously, than setting up in the frigid howling winds.
This part of the trip was grueling, if only because the majority of it was uphill. There were long, flat stretches and even some long, gradual downhills, which were just magical. Also, the route was marked by stone cairns that had been piled up by people that were hired by the province of Quebec to mark a trail into the crater. You see, the crater had recently become part of a Quebec park, and at great expense to try to drive tourism dollars to the area, the province of Quebec had even built very nice cabins along the route roughly every 30 kilometers to entice people into taking guided ski trips into the crater.
It took me about 4 hours to break camp, which is a little slow. I was up at about 7:30, and anyways, made it about a kilometer, feeling pretty good about the time.
I was hard pressed towing all the weight I had to get into these cabins. They're really meant for ski trips where each cabin is pre-stocked as people travel towards the crater.
Taking a quick break here, not too long so I don't cool down. I've probably about 7 or 8K to go to get to the cabin. Looks like I'll be getting there at dark, but just pushing on. These days are long. I mean, 15K, especially with all the hills and all the weight I'm hauling, is not easy, but not a lot of time to do anything but make, break camp and haul. So far it's been a pretty amazing trip, but definitely a challenging one, that's for sure. Here we go. Crossing a frozen lake. About the last 3K stretch of a 20-kilometer trek today. Pretty exhausting. It looks like that weather did indeed blow in. Now it's not nasty, but it's just a whiteout. And I could see the cabin. Now I can't see anything. I punched the location into my Garmin. It's gonna tell me which way to go. Oh, wait a minute. I think I might, oh yeah, look, it just cleared up. So I'm perfectly on the right track. Buck is seeming to be ready to call it a day here. So it appears this snow is really making it harder to pull the loads. It's not hard packed anymore. And I'm just feeling like there's no way I can make 15K a day to finish this trip before my provisions run out. I can stretch it a little bit, but and maybe live off the land with some hunting and some fishing of ptarmigan and lake trout, but I just feel like I'm gonna have to dump some weight or something. I got so much camera gear, I can't dump that. But maybe some other stuff. I'm gonna go through it and just see what I can get rid of, because I'm just simply not gonna make it with this much. It's just as simple as that. It appears I was expecting one cabin. It looks like there's more than one. I know there's a weather station here, but anyways, I assume that must be it.
It took me several days to reach Povungnituk Crater, a remote meteor impact site that lies in the wilderness of Arctic Quebec. It's one of the most remote meteor impact sites in the world and holds the world's second purest water at its base. Pretty dark by the time I got there and the weather wasn't good, but I found a cabin and made myself at home.
Well, here we are at Lac La Flamme. I got here and as you saw, there's several buildings, and I had to go and check each one and try lighting the fire because not all of them had oil left in the tank. Of course, there's no wood here, so it's all oil burning stoves. There's the oil stove. Looks like she's cooking okay. As soon as I bring the cameras in, they fog up and ice up. Yeah, hopefully it warms up. I'm happy that today I didn't push it and start sweating, because a lot of the time that's what I've done to try to get to these cabins on time, and you just get really yucky and wet afterwards.
The next morning, after waking up at the cabins near the crater, I heard the hum of a snowmobile and looked out the window. I was surprised that I had visitors. They were the first people I'd seen in about 13 days. And it was the same group of students that I'd gone under the sea ice with. They were led by some of the locals I'd already met in town as well.
Well, it is day 13 today. I'm still here in the cabin near Povungnituk Crater, and I decided to take an extra day because I sorted through a bunch of my stuff and I came up with an entire bag of stuff that I just don't need. I thought I was going to need it earlier on the trip, but I can get rid of. So I traded some stuff for a pair of sealskin mitts because my hands were freezing. And I'm going to kind of give some of the other stuff away. This whole bag of stuff I don't need. You know, this long rope. A few other things, some spike nails I was going to use in case I ran into low snow conditions to anchor my tent. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to trade this bag too. It's a really good bag, but I still have one. Last night I made an igloo,
which was a really cool experience. Northern lights danced in the sky as we put this igloo together, and I got some amazing shots, even though I got frostbite on my thumb doing it. And the following day, we did some ice fishing out of the igloo too. It was pretty awesome.
Well, here we are in the igloo I helped build the other day, and this igloo actually comes equipped with a couple ice fishing holes. It's built on the lake ice. So I've just been doing a little jigging here. I'm just using a Williams spoon, and I've managed to pull in a small lake trout and a landlocked Arctic char, which is pretty exciting. So there's the landlocked char. You can eat these raw. I had some raw the other day. It was actually quite good. And a small lake trout. That's going to be Buck's dinner tonight. I think that one will be my dinner. And Charlie's actually telling me that if it's minus 30 outside, that it'll warm it up in here to about 0, so a full 30 degrees. The frostbite I had in my hands got really bad, and last night I could barely sleep because it was just throbbing, because I stayed out to get pictures of them building this igloo. It was really cool though. Surprisingly warm when we went inside it. They didn't even finish patching all the holes, but it was still really warm. Today we're going to go up to Povungnituk crater. Unfortunately, it's not the clearest day, so I'm not going to get the best view of it, so it should be pretty cool. And then first thing tomorrow I'm gonna push on.
It was pretty neat to hang out with him near the crater for a couple of days because I couldn't travel anyways. The weather was just not good. We ended up going up to the rim of the crater and walking way down inside of it. We chiseled a hole through the 7-foot thick ice and drank the pure water straight out of Lake Pingala.
This is the purest water, or second purest water in the world. First purest water. It's debatable, but we're gonna go with first. The fountain of youth.
Those guys are like 100 years old.
We heard more amazing facts about Povungnituk crater, including that it's 1.8 million years old and is the second most intact meteor impact site in the world. From the top of the rim all the way to the bottom of the lake, it's about the same height as the CN Tower, and the lake itself is 850 feet deep, making it one of the deepest lakes in North America.
Well, I was supposed to leave this morning, and I'm still at the camp by Povungnituk crater, so I have a cabin here, but I woke up to a blizzard, as you can see behind me. That's the route I was supposed to be traveling on, and I would be heading into 100-kilometer-an-hour winds, minus 30, so probably about minus 45, minus 50 with the wind chill, and just gusting snow and horrific visibility. But so I decided that it would probably be borderline suicidal to leave today, which means I have to spend another day here. But you know, in the north, it's not the time that dictates your travel, it's safety and the weather. So I played it smart and I didn't leave today. But look at this. Oh, here's a message I just got here. It says, this is from Tori. It says, "How's the food situation? Are you skin and bone yet? I had a dream you came back thin but ripped and had a 6-pack." Well, I don't know about that. I still think I got a bit of a 1-pack going, but this is where we are here. Here's the crater I went to yesterday. And here is the Povungnituk right here, where I'm going to go. There's a small cabin there too, but that'll be the last chance I have to stay in a cabin.
On the Povungnituk, I had to travel over 100 miles going down river to reach Lac Alamand.
And now I'm at this gorgeous canyon on the Povungnituk, and I'm going to be following this for over a week. There's going to be no more big mountains, but this might be the most challenging and remote part of the trip yet. Alright, that's one way to get your stuff downhill. Use gravity. Wow, what a cool canyon this is here on the Povungnituk. So beautiful, and those drifts, they look nice. I'm a little concerned they're going to be hard to pull through, but they're not going to last for long, so.
Okay, come on.
Just coming to the end of the day of travel, day 15 on the Povungnituk, and I gotta say, today has to have been my favorite day of travel. The river is just awesome. I was thinking about just beelining it due west to Québec from Pingualuit, but I'm so glad I decided to come to the Povungnituk because the river is wicked. There's just canyons, and it's just such a gorgeous sight to see, and the traveling on it's way easier. A lot of drifts and soft patches of snow and hard patches, but overall just way easier than going up and down the mountains. It's flat, and well, in fact, the whole thing going downhill because I'm going with the current, and I'll be able to get fish much easier because I'm right on the river, and I'll be able to get ice, which takes less stove gas than to melt snow. So that's a quick way to get water too and preserve some gas. So well, it is day 16 of my trip. I got a weather report from my brother that says lots of snow today, and tomorrow's supposed to be a blizzard. Tomorrow's Sunday, so tomorrow's blizzard heading on into Monday. So I might have to stay held up in my tent for 2 days, held down by weather again after just waiting out a storm. This whiteout today is actually giving me vertigo. So on top of not being able to see the drifts I'm stepping on, I can't get a depth perception on the ground I'm looking at, and it's making me dizzy. So I'm trying to look at the bottom of my ski pole and stuff as I walk to try to compensate. But a lot of stretches of the river are so wind whipped, it's just nice smooth ice, really pretty. Right there I could see down the ice is about 3 or 4 feet thick, and it's easy traveling across the ice because my sled pulls quite easily, and with the poles I can almost use them as an extra set of legs to get traction and just kind of haul myself along so I don't slip. So it works really well. To the side of the river, and it looks like it's a little more hard packed here, so I'm just praying that I'll get a good stretch of hard pack, because when it's deep like that, man, does it ever take a lot out of you.
During this 100-kilometer stretch is where I started to run into some pretty serious issues.
Things aren't going so well. It's just dumping snow. Still a complete whiteout. Look, it looks like we're almost pushing for blizzard conditions here. I'm hoping that blizzard that's supposed to come tomorrow hasn't come early, but it's just scary how fast things can turn around here. Yesterday, I have a perfect day, you know, no fear in the world, to the next thing you know, being scared for your life and in a survival situation out here. The conditions and the weather are just unpredictable and very, 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 very harsh. I got my tent kind of halfway up. I was hoping to have the door facing away from the wind, but I put it there and I was just running out of time, so I just did it. 2 more stakes. I got to throw everything inside. Hopefully we'll be good and I'll be okay without a wall, but it's getting nasty out here quickly. Just here inside my tent because there's a blizzard going on outside, so I can't travel today. I'm just having to stay put because there's gusts to 90-kilometer-an-hour winds outside, and if I'm heading straight into it, I'm just gonna freeze my butt off. Blowing snow, you name it, just not the kind of day that you can really travel today, but Luckily my tent's holding up really well. I woke up and there's a snowdrift in here because I accidentally left the zipper open a crack at the bottom, and there's just the wind's so strong and there's that much blowing snow that I woke up to having a freaking snowdrift in my tent. It's like unbelievable. The snow will get in even the tiniest crack. Just melting some snow there for water. And I just have a few things hung up along the ridgepole here. My down parka. Just making myself a little hot chocolate. I'll have a mountain house for lunch, boil that, have a coffee, maybe a cappuccino, really get fancy out here, you know what I mean? That's pretty much the end of day 17. Left the tent once all day to take a dump. It was just terrifying and miserable outside. So I came back in, and the same thing with Buck. So I just stayed huddled up in my sleeping bag and tried to do a little reading. I just wrapped the bottom of my sleeping bag there in it's a regular garbage bag. And that way, up by the door where some snow sometimes drifts in and stuff, it keeps it more or less dry. What? What's over there? Probably just a fox, but I'm worried it could be a wolf, and wolves would probably want to eat Buck given the chance, so I'm just a little bit nervous about that. Well, last night in the middle of the night, Buck just started barking wildly, and I figured it was probably just a fox, and I was right. There's a bunch of fox tracks all around the campsite. It's a good thing I have a bin with my food in, and I kept it lashed down so the wind wouldn't blow the lid off so animals couldn't get at it. But yeah, fox tracks just circling the tent here. So obviously Buck was barking at a curious little fox, wondering if he could get some food, and it seemed like he was trying to charge out of the tent, so I woke up and yelled and made a lot of noise, and that probably scared it away. Good boy! Good boy! My tent peg, I buried it, and then a huge drift drifted way over it. Day 19, hoping to make it 15 clicks. Now the river starts to get pretty wild. There's tons of rapids marked. It starts to, right now it's only a 3% gradient, but the gradient picks up substantially. And I don't know if I'm gonna be able to walk across the rapids, if the ice will be unstable, if there's open water, if there's waterfalls. I might have to, I guess, kind of portage around it. I hope that doesn't mean going up on top of the canyon, because that would suck. Doable, but you know, very, very time consuming. But that's not going to be till probably a day or two from now. Remember this morning when Buck was outside the tent, I said I heard him barking? Well, Buck doesn't bark for no reason. He scared off a bear before, and I was worried that it might be a wolf. Well, it appears less than a kilometer from where we camped. There are wolf prints here where it's crossed the river and might have been looking down at Buck from the ridge. Definitely not a fox, I'll tell you that much. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy, Buck. Good boy. Very beautiful evening here on the Povungnituk. Varying conditions. Sometimes the snowshoes were sinking in deep. Sometimes it's hard packed. Sometimes I have to go back and help Buck up the really steep drifts. And then in between them is really soft, so it's kind of hard going. And I find myself zigzagging a lot, like, oh, here maybe is better, here's maybe better. And I think that's really cutting into my time. So I was feeling pretty good about today. And then I looked at my GPS and realized I'd only done 8.5 kilometers. Now that's in a straight line, so it's probably more like 10 because we're on a river and it winds. But that is concerning and depressing because I've been working hard and I need to be doing 15 out here. I just don't know what to do. I guess the only answer is get up at 6 a.m. every day, start walking by 9 and get an extra 3 hours in because the day's almost over and I haven't done 15 again. I guess just with the conditions and with how much weight I'm pulling, there's just not enough time. Well, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I am done for today. Not quite sure how far I went, but just considering the pain, I'd say probably about 17K. I'll check on my Garmin when I get into my tent. But a beautiful sunset here, and I'm just gonna set up right in the middle of the Povungnituk River. You know, I kind of had a feeling like something was looking at us all day. And it's funny, when Buck was outside of the tent and he barked this morning, and then I saw the wolf prints crossing the river. First thing I heard was a raven. And ravens and wolves can communicate. Nobody really knows how. Why is because they can communicate because the raven will help the wolf find its food. Of course, the raven gets the scraps. It's a recent thing that people have found that ravens are actually smarter than wolves, believe it or not. And they think that's true for all corvids, which is the ravens, crows, and even blue jays. So you have some pretty intelligent animals, considering we all know wolves are smart as hell. And then ravens are even smarter. Dig down into the snow here. I'm gonna do a little sideways line like this. I've almost made like a T. You can see I just totally have buried it sideways like that there. Well, I think that about does it for that side of the tent. Now I go around and do that to all the sides. Get in there, get the stove fired up, get a tarp laid out. There is no floor in this tent. Get my ground pads put out, get comfy, go to sleep, wake up, take it down, do everything else again tomorrow. Buck had an absolutely epic day yesterday. Does not look like he's ready to give her today. Day 20. Now today I got word over my inReach from my brother that there's supposed to be a blizzard hitting. I don't really see it right now. I see the haze in the sky. It looks beautiful. But it's supposed to be starting around the afternoon, which is going to be here any minute. So hopefully it misses me. That report is more for Donaldson and Kangik-Sujuak. Donaldson's a mine, which is a good distance away from me, and Kangik-Sujuak's on the coast, so that'd be awesome if I missed it. But basically, I'm trying to outrun a blizzard today. Anyways, that way. Over here looks terrifying. Well, indeed, it does look like blizzard conditions are building. I had to throw my sweater on. So do I set up camp or do I keep pushing? I don't want to be stuck out here in a blizzard. If it really starts blowing, I've worked up some sweat and that's a good way to die. So I'm just gonna make camp right here. I'm actually in the middle of a rapid, what you could run in a canoe in the summer right now. So obviously there's a lot of ice. Anyways, I better get to it. Okay, I got my tent up. Looks like just in the nick of time too. I didn't want to have the door facing the wind because I'm just shoveling a little extra snow around the outside. Yeah, I didn't want to have the door facing the wind because then as soon as I open the door, there's like a snowdrift in my tent immediately. But that's how I put it on by mistake, and it was just getting too windy to even flip it around. So now I'm just gonna crawl in there and hope that the storm doesn't get too bad.
You see, at this point, winter was starting to turn into the spring. And in the Arctic, that means weather systems collide and you get some serious blizzards. When it's a blizzard, you can't go anywhere. And I just stay inside my tent, hoping that my tent would stay intact and wouldn't blow over while I read a book. In all, I had over 9 days where I couldn't travel, an unlucky amount of blizzard days throughout that time period.
So it looks like I just got my tent up in time. The storm's gotten worse. I used my pulks to block some of the wind because wasn't enough snow here to make a snow block wall, and the storm was closing in on me, so I had to make the call, do I just go ahead and set up my tent without the wall? And I did that, and so hopefully that's the right decision. Anyways, gonna put up my ground pad, get changed, get my clothes hanging to dry a little. I am freaking exhausted. I think I have a little bit of a dilemma. It's the old, should I stay or should I go? I'm melting my snow. I'm sort of slowly getting prepared to go. Buck's not doing anything. Again. And I'm kind of thinking, well, you know, maybe this doesn't technically count as a blizzard. Maybe it's close. You know, maybe I can still travel in this. So maybe I should have another peek outside and see what that looks like and just kind of go from there. Look at all the snow that just blew in when I did that. I think that counts as a blizzard. Winds gusting to 70 kilometers an hour, dumping snow. Can't see shit. I really hope this breaks soon. Probably not a good idea to leave the tent and start going in that kind of weather. I just went outside to have a shit. I was holding it off as long as possible, but since I have a little bit of a lactose problem, it crept up on me. I shit my pants. A good bit of shit dumped in my pants, and all the shit just froze to me immediately. So right now I have shit smeared on my leg, frozen, and like a snowman worth of snow blew in my tent, and I'm freezing my ass off. The wind's still strong. At least the clouds have kind of gone and it's not also snowing, it's just strong wind now, but easily 70 kilometer an hour wind, so that was just really f***ing unpleasant. Day 22 today. Yesterday the weather was terrible. Today it seems a little better, well definitely a lot better, a lot less windy. Sure doesn't seem like a peachy day though, but I'm gonna try to get 15-20K behind me. All packed up. Takes me forever to get going. Just about to leave. The last thing I do is I go to tighten my boot and it freaking breaks. And I guess it's just so cold, as I pulled it just snapped. So anyways, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to figure something out though. I think I can just tuck that strap in there and pull it tight like that and still get it reasonably tight. Actually, I think that's actually better than how it was before. As you can see here, the Povungnituk River has really widened up. I was actually just going through a whitewater section, and the ice conditions are so good I actually walked down a waterfall. Well, this just goes to show you how fast the weather can move in. I had a nice tailwind, it was pretty good, pretty nice day really. And then started getting later, the weather started getting kind of crappy. I said, okay, time to make camp. Then all of a sudden we're borderline moving into a blizzard. And I'm trying to get a snow block wall because there's no way I'm gonna be able to get my tent up with this wind. Luckily the snow here is thick and hard packed enough that I can actually make some blocks. But right now we're looking at 70 kilometers an hour wind, probably gusting to 90. And so I better get this up fast and get some shelter because it can get scary out here pretty quick, I'll tell you that much. If I don't get my shelter up tonight, nobody's gonna be able to make it here in time to save my ass before I freeze to death. So what's my communications equipment really good for in this kind of weather? That's gotta be gusting to 90 or over 90 kilometers an hour right now. You know what? This is no joke out here. This isn't just, hey, let's build an igloo in the backyard. Hey, let's practice some primitive traps. This is real shit. If I don't get this wall up and my tent up out here, it's a good chance I die. I'm in the absolute middle of the Ungava Peninsula on the Povungnituk River in a blizzard.
What the hell day is it? 23? Well, it's the next day, day 23. It's about 12:30 and I am still in my tent. You saw me almost complete my snow block wall yesterday evening. Well, after that, the blizzard just got out of control raging. The wind completely changed directions and it was pitch black. And so I tried to put my tent up, but the wall wasn't helping. And as I was putting it up, my tent just blew away. So I had to extend the wall, taking blocks from the wall I'd already built and cutting new ones, and extended the wall to over 20 feet long to block the wind that then started coming from the south. And I was able to get my tent up, not perfectly. It was still a struggle. But I managed to get in. It took me almost 4 hours to set up camp. By the time I finished eating and stuff, it was almost 3 in the morning. Just to give you an idea of how, exhausted I was too after walking 20K. And then today, it's just gotten worse. The wind's coming from the west and northwest now. It's gusting to over 80 kilometers an hour. My tent's shaking, and because I couldn't do the best job at putting it up, I'm a little worried that my anchors are gonna come loose and my tent's gonna blow away, so it's a little bit scary. But apparently, this whole region is just getting hammered with a really low pressure system. I don't know when it's gonna clear up, but there's no way I can travel today. I mean, this is the worst weather I've seen yet. I'm using my shovel there to try to help support the wall. Got myself a coffee going here. I'm pretty much completely out of creamer and sugar. And I was out of hot chocolate several days ago, so disaster there.
Well, fortunately, the next day the weather broke and I continued.
Morning, day 24. Seems the wind has died down substantially outside. I'm going to be able to travel today, so now it's just eat and get the hell out of here. Hoping that the wind managed to pack the snow pretty good, because if it's really loose snow, it's gonna make it really hard to travel. buck seems to have somehow smashed the nail on his dew claw on his front leg. Seems to be bleeding quite a bit, but he doesn't really seem to care, and seems the bleeding has slowed down, so I might just keep my eye on it and make sure I treat it tonight. But it looks like the nail back where the nerve and the flesh in the nail has split. That's what's causing the bleeding.
The Povungnituk is an ancient travel route, maybe to cross the Ungava Peninsula from Hudson Strait to Hudson's Bay or vice versa. These are definitely man-made tent rings. There's 4 in a row. The one immediately behind me is quite large. It looked like not just a regular tent ring where you see just rocks in a circle to hold down a tent, but almost like rocks were stacked 2 or 3 high in a circle.
The caches were essentially large piles of rock. They had been used to store meat and things they couldn't carry with them, and food that they'd leave there for themselves when they'd return. It was pretty amazing to see these undocumented historical sites that were likely as much as 400 years old, or even more in some cases.
Pretty neat just to see that ancient campsite there. Some other people traveling the same route as me, probably 300-400 years ago even, so neat to see that. And I'm crossing this big lake here, and that's where I'm headed. Looks like there could be some not so nice weather rolling in here, day 24.
Yeah, it looks like potentially not the best weather. Doesn't look horrific, but doesn't look good. I should be able to make it another 5K before the sun goes down, but it's really turned into a beautiful evening. It's just gorgeous out right now. This wide lake-like section of the river here is a neat change, and I'm really enjoying it.
It's the night of day 24. I didn't feel like building a snow block wall tonight, and the winds were really ripping, so I crossed the entire lake thinking I could set up behind or I guess in the lee of kind of like a really big hill, thinking that would protect the wind. And it was a lot of effort, more than I thought, to cross the lake. And I was thinking, I should have just set up in the wind and built a snow block wall and been good. And where I was, it looked like there was another ancient campsite. It would have been cool to camp there. But as I got across, the hill was kind of blocking the wind, not totally, but it was doing a pretty good job. And I went up the hill a substantial way, and thinking it would flatten out, but it didn't. So there's a huge drift there, and what I end up doing is just digging a huge flat spot out and setting up kind of on the side of a hill, but because there's so much snow I could flatten it out. And it's actually a really cool campsite, and I set my tent up really well. I could deal with any kind of wind at this point, so in the end it worked out. I've checked out my lunches, and I've checked out how much food Buck has left, and it's not going to be enough to finish the trip, so I have to catch a few fish to be able to sustain me and Buck. Day 25, and I decided that I better do a little ice fishing. I've just come out from where I camped last night. I camped on shore, and basically I'm just going to shovel the snow away and start giving her. I don't know, it might take an hour depending on how thick the ice is. Looking forward to hopefully hooking into some fish here. Would be a big morale booster.
I was realizing that all the days I had to take off where I couldn't travel were really cutting into my food supply. I needed to catch some fish, and fast.
I really hope there's some fish down here. I'm starting to get way down there, and I'm wondering if there's any end in sight or if this just goes to China. Hopefully not too much more left.
I chiseled a hole, what I thought was a reasonable distance out from shore. Knowing that the lake trout and landlocked Arctic char are typically in about 10 to 15 foot deep water at that time of year, I thought I'd picked a good spot. And when I finally made it through the ice, I realized that it was over 70 feet deep under the hole, meaning that I'd be hard pressed to catch any fish. I jigged and I jigged and I jigged for hours until I got deeply cold and caught nothing.
I don't know how much longer I should really be trying here. Maybe I'll give it another 20 minutes tops, and then I'm just gonna have to pack up and leave with my tail between my legs. This sucks though. All this work, hopes so high, and just sitting here catching nothing. I've wasted the entire day, haven't caught any fish. I'll be lucky if I make it 5K today, and I've taken another gouge off of my fuel resources and my food resources, and bucks too. So total failure, but I'm gonna have to try again. I mean, I just don't have enough food to make it all the way there, so it's really relying on me catching some fish, and just what a flop. So I'm just really disappointed. I guess you gotta just stay positive and some food will come. You know, maybe I'll be able to hunt a ptarmigan or something today, you never know. So I'm just gonna try to stay positive, but this little event has not proved fruitful.
And it took me almost 10 days to reach Lac Alaman when it really should have only taken me 4 or 5.
The hills there are starting to get pretty rocky, and that's kind of my concern, that when I'm heading overland I'm gonna head into rocks.
Traveling into a total whiteout here on day 26. I'm about 5K to Lac Alaman, and I saw what looked like a blizzard coming in earlier, and it's definitely getting more blizzard-like. Right now I'm walking in a total whiteout. It's very, very hard to navigate. I can't see the horizon. I'm just kind of following the shoreline of a lake-like section of the Povungnituk and trying to point myself at rocks that are in my direction, because rocks are darker than the snow, and that's the only thing that shows up. But the question is, do I keep pushing, or do I stop and set up right now? Because there's definitely one hell of a blizzard on the way.
It would appear the blizzard is starting here, day 26. Slowly moved in. I can't see a thing, and I just can't travel anymore. I only made it 10K today, which kind of sucks, but I don't want to die, so I better bear down and start setting up camp ASAP here, because it's getting ugly fast. It looks like something real special is brewing here. The winds haven't picked up, but I wouldn't doubt if we had 90, 100 km/h gusts, looking by the way this is going. So I did a really good job. The wind was pretty strong when I was putting my tent up, so I had to build a wall, but I'm gonna want one anyways with this wind, just for the extra support. And I did a really good job of anchoring my tent down, piling snow around the outside of it, because there's a little flap you can fold out and then pile snow on top. So I did a lot of that, and I really got my tent buttoned down as best I can and built that wall.
Day 27, about 3 in the afternoon, and I am still getting hammered by a severe blizzard. In the night, it just started raging. It was kind of terrifying because my tent was shaking, and the wind shifted. I set my wall up kind of blocking a southwest wind, but the wind shifted to becoming pretty much directly from the south, and I was just getting hit directly on the side of my tent by 90 km/h, if not more, gusts. So I'm just having to hunker down in my tent. I'm dreading the idea of having to leave to go to the washroom or anything like that. Buck doesn't seem to want to move either. Snow rapidly builds up. Here, I gotta knock it off every once in a while. Day 28. The wind's still kind of strong. It seems to have dissipated to maybe 40 km/h with the odd 70 km/h gust, maybe sustained 50. But last night got scary. The wind was just howling. At times it sounded like a freight train. My tent was flapping. I couldn't sleep just because I was terrified my tent was going to possibly blow away, but also just because of the sound of the tent. And there is like a 4-foot drift piled up in front of my tent door. I don't even know how I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to have to pack everything out and basically somehow try to shovel my way out of my own tent. It's just nuts. Oh my Lord.
This whole thing from here all the way up to here is all a massive snowdrift. The snowdrift goes above the level of my zipper. I'm not even gonna be able to get out of my tent to see what kind of a day it is.
Well, I'm gonna go try to dig out of my tent now.
It's starting to get better, but just blizzard conditions.
Well, I shoveled my way out and decided that I needed to take the time on this day where I couldn't travel to try to get some more food. Not far away from the tent, I spent some time to build another strong snowblock wall to protect me from the blistering winds. After the wall was finished, I began using my ice chisel, or talk as it's called in Inuktitut, to chisel through the 7-foot deep lake ice in search of fish.
Yeah. 6, 7, 15. 2 hours. Well, despite the horrific weather, I've been busy today. I just about froze my ass off, but I built another snow block wall that's over 6 feet tall with massive blocks because it's been gusting to 90 all day. And I'm hoping before it gets dark, I'll have the opportunity to catch some fish. So, you know, I got all my stuff ready, and as I got out of the tent, I was just like, this is insane. There's no way I can travel today without dying. Wow, this snow block wall I built here, it's just doing an amazing job at sheltering me. The wind is still really strong and just bitterly cold. Like, if you don't have a balaclava on, if your face is exposed for 10 minutes, guaranteed you get frostbite. And I've actually just been chiseling here pretty hard, and I'm actually able to take my park off when I'm behind this wall, which is awesome. But as soon as I step out, I'm reminded quickly about how important it is. And you can see how tall I built it too.
I also tried fishing again, but had no luck, which was pretty devastating to say the least. And it was always a question whether or not I should take the time and energy to fish or use that time and energy just to get closer.
Here's what 90 to 100 km/h gusts will do to your tent poles.
And sustained wind gusts actually permanently bent the thick, strong pole of my Snow Trekker minimalist canvas tent. Well, fortunately, the next day the weather broke and I continued, but I didn't make it far. I finally reached Lac Alamand, and it took me about 9 days to travel there from a large canyon in the Povungnituk River.
Day 31. Finally a great day. If I could do 20K a day, I could be in Inuit in 7 days. I only have 5 lunches left. And I have 4 mountain houses a day. Buck is running low on food, and my lunches are basically just mammoth weight gainer, which is great, but not enough of it, and ready crisp bacon. And I don't think that is enough. I'm just so gassed right now. And so I crossed Lac Alamand, and then my plan was to beeline to Inuit. But the scenery is beautiful, but it is incredibly rugged and incredibly mountainous, and just boulders and rocks everywhere. I have to zigzag through everything. I'm just going uphill, downhill all the time. It's super tricky, tough to use a compass because you're always walking off your bearing. So I'm just thinking that I'm gonna need to facilitate a resupply if I'm gonna finish this trip without starving to death. Well, after traveling through some incredibly rugged, mountainous, boulder-ridden landscape today that, you know, kind of got me down thinking, oh my God, is the rest of the way to Inuit going to be like this? Because I'm going to need another freaking month. But it looks like it, not flattened out, but a little bit not so rugged. I got a beautiful downhill stretch. And, you know, we got some big hills still, more rolling, not, you know, not so
intensely rugged. You know, maybe it is. From here it doesn't look as bad though, and not so many boulders and rocks, so thank God, because that was beginning to really scare me.
That's the way I'm going right now. Downhill, baby.
So I believe it is day 33 or 34. Just really crappy weather today. It's actually sleeting and then snowing and then sleeting, and we got some strong winds, 80-kilometer-an-hour gusts easily. Some of them, I have my tent set up. The wind's coming pretty much from the west, northwest, so I'm taking it mostly on the, the back panel here of the tent, which is the smallest kind of area it can take the wind, but a lot of it's coming in from the side here too, so sometimes I get this wall here really pushing in. So unfortunately I can't travel yet again today. I think this is going to be 8 or 9 days now that I've had to stay put, which is a lot. It's more than I'd planned for, and my provisions are running quite low. Buck and I split 4 pieces of bacon and a mountain house. I gave him about half, and that's all we're going to eat for today.
I'm looking kind of grody. Wow, that nose of mine just looks like a snake shedding its skin.
I was already hungry as the lunches I packed just weren't enough calories, and I pushed on, battling hunger every day.
That is salt water right there. That's Hudson's Bay. So my new line is going to come like this through this lake, and then across over. Here's the Ikotat River, and then right there I will hit salt water and I will cross the Ungava Peninsula.
4 more days till I reach Hudson's Bay. I'm hoping I can maybe do it in 3, but I got some really rugged terrain to go through. Buck has 3 scoops of First Mate high performance food a day for the next 2 days, and then 1 can of First Mate dog food for the following 2 days. That's not really enough food for him. I'm on about 3 mountain houses a day, 2 servings of Mammoth weight gainer powder, and 1 pack of Ready Crisp bacon. That's not really enough for me, so it's going to be a hungry march, but I think it's doable.
When I came out of my tent the next day, I saw that the snow had blown off or had been melted off a lot of the ridge tops.
Extremely warm day, I think 34 here. Very, very warm. The snow is really sticky. It's got to be, geez, it's got to be probably about 4 or 5 degrees out. The wind is a blasting wind. I don't even feel cold at all. I can see some of the hills. The snow is melted, and I'm worried that that's going to make for some tough hauling over rocks and stuff, and the snow's going to be sticky.
I was already hungry as the lunches I packed just weren't enough calories, and I pushed on, battling hunger every day. I knew that at this point, if I traveled 21 kilometers a day and cut my dinners and my breakfast in half, that I would be able to make it to Hudson Bay. I had to ration Buck's food as well. After leaving Lac Alaman was the most concerning part of the trip, because I had to travel through a mountain range where there was very, very deep snow. At one point, I turned around and I looked at Buck walking, towing his sled, but his entire body was underneath the light, fluffy snow, which I sunk in almost up to my waist.
Lots more exposed rocks with this warm weather, and it's looking like it's gonna rain tonight too. I'm gonna have to make some serious detours so my pulks don't get chewed up.
Trying to haul my heavily laden sledge in this deep snow was incredibly punishing, and I made terrible time despite exerting a massive amount of effort on what was reduced rations and very little food to eat for lunch.
Just had a huge detour to go way around a mountain, and now I'm trying to make it up the super, super steep bank on the Korak River. Way behind schedule, pissed off. I managed to do 20 on the minimum amount of calories I have, which makes me feel really good. At one point, I just had to stop. I thought, I can't do the extra 5. I'm gonna have to do 15 or 17 around there. And I didn't have any food left, any ration food left for the day, so I just took a break, sat down, had some water, took a breather, and that gave me the energy to bang off the rest. So I just feel awesome that I managed to get this done, and I have 3 days left to get to the coast, but I'm thinking maybe I can do it in 2 if I can do 20K a day in this country.
This is home for the night.
When you're camping like this in the winter time, you can kind of camp everywhere because you always have a water source in the snow. Speaking of water, my boots are pretty wet. I'm gonna have to burn a lot of fuel drying them off. That's one thing I luckily have. Lots of fuel, not enough food.
My boot liners were soaked, and I had to find different ways to dry them out in the tent. But I was still making it happen.
Getting a late start today. I'm about 43 kilometers from Mosquito Bay, which is saltwater. It's part of Hudson's Bay. Hopefully I'll be done in 2 days and meet a pickup there for a 40K snowmobile ride back to Québec. Definitely, I thought it was supposed to be below freezing. Yesterday was quite warm, and it seems warm today. I mean, I'm gonna have to take off my long johns before I start moving. My food supply is running quite short, but I had a big hunk of butter, and I cut up hunks of butter and put it into my mountain house this morning. I think that'll give me a little bit of extra kick to make it a little further. Well, the snow is not hard packed anymore, far from it, and I'm sinking in every step, which is cutting into my time. Terrain is extremely freaking rugged. Had to make a huge detour to bypass a mountain, and now I'm going up the side of a canyon, which is like so freaking hard, and Buck can't make it. I gotta go back and get Buck. Buck, come on, come on. Okay, so day, I don't know, 37, 36. I just don't really have a clue at this point. Been out here for quite some time. Anyways, beautiful day. The snow's still gonna be soft, which is gonna make snowshoes necessary, of course, and it's gonna make going a little bit slower. But I am 18 kilometers from Hudson's Bay, from achieving my goal. I'm going to the mouth of the Iktotat River at the head of Mosquito Bay, and when I reach there, I will have crossed the Ungava Peninsula from Wakeham Bay on Hudson Strait to Mosquito Bay at Hudson's Bay, and it's gonna feel really good to get there. Once I get there, it'll probably be late in the evening tonight, and about noon tomorrow, I'm gonna have a pickup from a Québec, and I'm gonna get a snowmobile ride, the last 40 clicks back to the community, where I'm gonna stay at a hotel for a few nights and check out town. But yeah, just getting packed up. I gotta get away by latest noon. It takes me about 3.5, 4 hours to 3 or 4 hours to break camp, depending on how much excitement goes into it. If I play the William Tell Overture in my head, as nerdy as that might sound, sometimes I get going faster. As usual, time to get going. Feeling kind of good today though, I gotta say. Since I'm getting close to Hudson Bay, one of the things I gotta have at the ready is my gun. The polar bears are probably, out on Hudson Bay hunting for seals. They eat seal in the winter, and there's no seals closer inland, but you never know. So I keep my gun easily accessible. I have a strap. I haven't been using it because I've just been carrying it on my pulk. I've decided that, Buck just doesn't have enough food in him to make it today. So I'm going to feed him my last bit of dog food This is First Mate wild salmon formula. Hopefully this will give him the extra energy to make that push to make it to saltwater today. Man, this stuff actually smells kind of good. Now it is suitable for human consumption, and I'm really low on calories too. So maybe I should give it a try. Wow. I can't believe how good that tastes. Unbelievable. Buck might have to go hungry. I'm not even kidding. Amazing. First Mate wild salmon formula. It says definitely suitable for human consumption. You might be laughing at me that I'm eating dog food, but I swear to God, it's delicious. Wow. I don't even have to force that down. That's great. Unbelievable. I'm shocked that it's so good. But he really needs that because I need a really good day out of him, and that'll give him some really good energy.
I think I see a ptarmigan up there. It's the first one I've seen this whole trip. I really need the food. I need the energy to make it to meet my pickup. So I'm gonna try to kill it. How in the f did I miss that? Unbelievable.
It is a warm one today again. Still below freezing, but you know, the snow's really soft on this huge lake I'm crossing. I've already done about 5K, so 13K to go to saltwater. And I think the scenery is gonna level off a bit after I cross out of this lake. I'm gonna have a big hill to go up, but I'm feeling kind of confident that I should be able to make it.
What a beautiful day for my last day. Hopefully my last day if I can make it to 18K. Just had a chance to put a little meat on the table and shoot a couple ptarmigan, but I didn't want to shoot them on the ground, so I waited till they took flight, and somehow I just totally missed. My ski goggles or whatever, I didn't have the gun positioned right on my face. I just totally blew it. So that's really upsetting to walk 400 miles, get one chance and blow it.
I was only about 5 kilometers at this point from Hudson Bay, and I needed to make it there in order to meet my snowmobile pickup the next morning. At this point, I was completely out of food. In an effort to save time and to avoid traveling at night, I gambled with a shorter but more dangerous route over boulders and rocks. But the difficult path got Buck stuck at the bottom of a huge ridge with his sledge hung up on boulders, pushing me to have to turn around and walk back down to help him, forcing me to do the trek twice. If I couldn't get Buck quickly up the ridge, I would have to trek over dangerous boulder fields in the dark or miss the snowmobile pickup. At this point, hunger was completely zapping my energy.
Just coming up this ridge, last day, pushing hard to make it to Hudson's Bay. Oh my God, he did it. I'm just coming up this huge ridge. Come on, Buck! And I was going back to get Buck, and I can't believe he made it up that hill. That's unreal. He's been having a rough day, so I'm just so proud of him right now. Good boy! Good boy! Unbelievable, Buck. Good job, buddy. Good job.
As I crested the last ridge, I looked out to see these mountains dissipate and flat, navigable, beautiful country lay ahead of me. I could see some river valleys that would be challenging to cross and some lakes, and the setting sun put a beautiful golden orange hue across the land. There was little wind and probably only about 5 degrees below freezing or so. It was perfect.
Holy shit.
I'm horribly backlit right now, but if you see behind me, that is the Iktotat River. The second ridge is the opposite side. I thought we had 2 ridges to cross. It was only one. At the bottom of this ridge is the Iktotat River, and the mouth is very close. I'm about 3.5 kilometers away from saltwater, from crossing the Ungava Peninsula right now. Thank God. I thought there's 2 ridges, there's only one. I just like hauled across all kinds of boulders and I just don't even care anymore. Just the fastest way is best.
I descended the gently sloping mountain down to the flats.
Well, folks, I did it. I crossed the Ungava Peninsula in the wintertime. Behind me is Hudson's Bay. I feel like relieved, and also it's surreal to be walking at the beginning and putting an ocean behind my back and now have an ocean in front of me. Freaking crazy. But I just walked across the Ungava Peninsula. Oh, wow, what a trip. And that is Hudson's Bay. Started at Wakeham Bay on Hudson Strait and ended at Mosquito Bay on Hudson Bay. I don't even know how long it took me, but I think maybe 36 or 37 days. What a trip. Did 18K today, the way the crow flies, but man, was it ever a tough day. Just crossing mountains and ridges and slushy lakes and everything. But yeah, I did it. Feels good. Me and Buck did it. It's kind of cool to think that is the end of my trail, and it started all the way over on Hudson Strait. What do you think, Buck? We did it. It's over. The trip's done. Yay! We did it. You really are a good dog. You walked across the Ungava Peninsula, didn't you? Yes, you did.
Looking at maps and seeing these wild places that still exist in northern Canada, and just something about these places calls me to them. Just the spirit of adventure, wanting to see what's around the next corner. I don't know what it is, but I feel like it's definitely genetic in me, because it's always something I've felt that I want to be beyond where there are people. I want to be where there's no civilization that's further north than me. And this was an amazing warm-up, let me tell you, or practice for winning alone.